Have you ever wondered how one small act of kindness could change the course of an entire life? What if a struggling single dad offered help to a complete stranger, only to discover she wasn't who he thought she was? In a place where hope was as fragile as the wildflowers fighting to bloom against the harsh winds, one unexpected encounter planted the seeds of a new beginning. Before we dive into this heartwarming journey of love, redemption, and second chances, if you enjoy stories that uplift your spirit and touch your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel. It's a small gesture, but it means the world to us, and it helps us continue sharing these inspiring tales with you. Now sit back, relax, and join us for Where the Wildflowers Grow. The Montana sun blazed high, setting the rolling fields of wild grass ablaze in golden light. Sam Taylor gripped the steering wheel of his battered old pickup, squinting against the shimmer of heat rising off the road. The tires hummed against the asphalt as he headed home from a long day repairing fences for a neighboring ranch, another small job to keep the lights on, and food on the table for his 2 growing boys. The air conditioner had given up weeks ago, so Sam rolled down the windows and let the hot wind slap against his face. He sighed, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle into his bones, the kind of weariness that had nothing to do with muscles and everything to do with the unrelenting grind of survival. Just as he crested a low hill, he spotted something unusual on the side of the road. A pickup truck, even older and rustier than his own, parked crookedly on the gravel shoulder. A figure stood beside it, waving a hesitant arm. Sam slowed instinctively. Out here, kindness wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. Neighbors, strangers, it didn't matter. In a land as wild and vast as Montana, you helped, or you didn't survive. He pulled over a few yards ahead and stepped out, wiping his calloused hands on his jeans. As he approached, he took in the figure more clearly. A young woman, maybe in her late 20s, with sun-streaked hair tucked beneath a dusty ball cap. Her jeans were torn at the knees, boots scuffed, and a guitar case leaned against the dented fender of her truck. "Trouble?" Sam asked, his voice rough from disuse. The woman pushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear and gave him a sheepish smile. "Yeah, battery's dead, I think. I tried jump-starting it, but—" She shrugged, helpless. Sam nodded, glancing at the truck. "Hood up?" She popped the latch. Together they peered into the mess of wires and dust. Sam fiddled for a moment, tried a jump with the cables he kept under his seat, but the truck coughed once and then fell silent. "It's not just the battery," he said finally. "Starter's shot, most likely." The woman's shoulders sagged. For a moment she looked so lost that Sam's heart tightened. "Where you headed?" he asked. "Anywhere," she said, and her voice cracked slightly. "Just anywhere that's not behind me." Sam hesitated. He had 2 boys waiting at home. A stranger could be anyone. But something in the way she clutched the strap of her guitar, like it was the only thing she truly owned, told him she wasn't a threat. She was just tired, just alone. "My place isn't far," Sam heard himself say. "You can crash there for the night. Get some water, some food. We'll figure something out in the morning." The woman looked at him, eyes wide and uncertain, like she didn't quite believe kindness still existed. Then she nodded. "Thank you. I'm Harper." "Sam," he replied simply. He helped her gather her few belongings. A duffel bag, a water bottle, the guitar. No makeup, no fancy jewelry, just a plain strength in the way she moved, lean and wiry like someone used to fending for herself. They rode in silence for a few minutes. Harper stared out the window, drinking in the endless fields and distant mountains. Sam stole a glance at her, the tired slump of her shoulders, the dirt smudged on her cheek, the way her fingers twitched nervously in her lap. "Got kids," he said finally, to prepare her, 2 boys, twins, 8 years old. A small smile ghosted across her lips. I like kids, she said. Sam nodded. Somehow he believed her. When they pulled into his driveway, little more than 2 dusty tire tracks leading up to a sagging, weather-beaten house, Harper's smile faded slightly. Sam caught it and felt a sting of shame, though he had no reason to. It's not much, he said gruffly, but it's home. It's perfect, Harper said softly. Inside, Noah and Liam tackled Sam with enthusiastic yells. Their shirts were dirty, their hair mussed, their smiles wide enough to light up the whole place. Sam ruffled their heads and introduced Harper. The boys, ever curious, peppered her with questions. Where'd you come from? What's your guitar's name? Can you play something? Sam watched, surprised, as Harper knelt to their level, answering every question patiently, even coaxing a few notes from her battered guitar. The melody she played was simple but sweet, and the boys clapped along in delight. For the first time in a long time, Sam felt something crack open in his chest. A warmth he hadn't realized he'd been missing. That night after the boys were asleep, Sam sat on the porch with a cold beer, Harper nursing a mug of tea beside him. The stars spread across the Montana sky like spilled sugar, breathtaking in their vastness. You running from something? He asked quietly, not prying, just offering a space. Harper didn't answer right away. She sipped her tea, eyes on the horizon where the last light of day was dying. Maybe, she said finally, or maybe I'm just looking for somewhere to belong. Sam nodded. He understood that better than he could say. Well, he said, his voice rough but sincere, you're welcome here, as long as you need. Harper turned her head, and for the first time that day, Sam saw a real smile. Small, tremulous, but real. Thank you, she whispered. As the night deepened and the crickets sang, Sam leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes, feeling for the first time in a long while like maybe, just maybe, the road he was on wasn't so broken after all. The morning sun spilled through the thin curtains of the Taylor house, casting a gentle glow over the worn floorboards and the mismatched furniture. It was a small place, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, but it was full of life, the kind of life that seeped into the walls and made even peeling paint feel like a badge of honor. Sam stood in the kitchen, pouring cereal into 3 chipped bowls. He moved quietly, careful not to wake Harper, who he'd given the battered old couch for the night. The boys were already up, their hushed whispers and soft giggles floating from their shared room. As Sam set the bowls on the table, he heard the creak of the couch springs. Harper sat up slowly, blinking against the morning light, her blonde hair a tangled halo around her face. Morning, Sam said gruffly. Harper rubbed her eyes. Morning. Noah and Liam came barreling into the kitchen, skidding to a stop when they saw Harper. She smiled, a little shyly, and the boys, after a moment of curious staring, broke into grins. Want cereal? Noah asked. I'd love some, Harper replied, her voice warm. Sam handed her a bowl, and they all sat down around the scuffed kitchen table. It was awkward at first, the kind of careful silence that falls between people who don't yet know what parts of themselves are safe to show. But kids have a way of slicing through awkwardness like a hot knife through butter. Where'd you get your guitar? Liam asked around a mouthful of cereal. Harper chuckled. Won it in a poker game. Sam raised an eyebrow, and Harper grinned sheepishly. Kidding. It was my mom's, she said, her smile softening. It's the only thing I kept when I left. The boys nodded solemnly, sensing without being told that there was a story buried in those few words. Sam watched her, noticing the way her fingers tightened slightly around the spoon. the way her eyes drifted toward the window, as if searching for something just beyond the horizon. After breakfast, Sam loaded up his tools into the truck bed. He had a few odd jobs lined up, fence mending mostly, and he needed to get moving. He hesitated by the door, looking back at Harper. "You're welcome to stay here today," he said, "if you don't mind keeping an eye on the boys." Harper looked startled. "Are you sure?" Sam shrugged. "They could use a little extra company, and you look like you could use a break." The truth was, he didn't like the idea of Harper out there on her own. Not with that broken-down truck and whatever ghosts she was carrying. Better to keep her here, where he could at least make sure she was safe. Harper smiled, a real one this time. "I'd be happy to." When Sam returned that evening, dusty and sunburned, he found the boys and Harper out back. Liam was holding a watering can, dousing a patch of dirt, while Noah arranged small stones around the edges. Harper knelt beside them, showing them how to plant seeds properly, her voice low and patient. Sam leaned against the door frame and watched them for a moment, something warm and unfamiliar curling in his chest. "We're starting a garden," Liam shouted when he spotted his dad. "A real one." Sam chuckled. "Is that right?" Harper stood, brushing dirt off her jeans. They had the idea. I just helped. Sam looked at the freshly turned soil, the hopeful little mounds waiting for life to sprout. It wasn't much, a few beans, some carrots, maybe a sunflower or two, but it was something. It was hope, planted one tiny seed at a time. "Thank you," he said quietly. Harper shook her head. "You're the one who helped me." Later, after dinner, fried eggs and toast, simple but hearty, they sat on the porch again. The boys played with a battered soccer ball in the yard, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Sam handed Harper a cup of coffee. "You don't have to stay," he said. "I mean, if you've got somewhere you need to be." Harper cradled the cup in her hands. "I don't," she said simply. "Not anymore." She didn't offer more, and Sam didn't press. He understood the language of loss, of untethered drifting. Sometimes words only made it harder. "You're welcome to stay as long as you want," he said. Harper looked at him then, really looked, as if measuring the weight of his offer, and in that moment, something passed between them, something unspoken but undeniable, a fragile thread of trust, woven from small kindnesses and shared silences. "I'd like that," she said finally. They sat in companionable silence, sipping their coffee, watching the stars appear one by one in the vast Montana sky. A cool breeze stirred the scent of the fresh-turned earth from the garden, mingling with the faint, sweet smell of wildflowers blooming at the edges of the yard. Sam closed his eyes for a moment, letting it all soak in. The boys' laughter, the warm weight of the coffee cup in his hands, the quiet presence of Harper beside him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to live again. The next morning, Harper rose early, awakened by the soft chirping of meadowlarks outside the open window. She stretched, feeling the familiar aches of a body too long acquainted with sleeping in cars, on benches, under open skies. Yet here, in this little house where the smell of brewing coffee and the low murmur of boys' laughter filled the air, she felt something almost foreign. Peace. Sam was already up, of course. Harper found him in the backyard, hammering a loose board back into the fence. He looked up when she approached, offering a nod that was becoming, in its own quiet way, a kind of welcome. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, tucking her hair under her cap. The boys bounded outside a minute later, full of restless energy, soccer ball tucked under Noah's arm. "Can we work on the garden?" Liam asked eagerly. Sam glanced at Harper. She smiled. "I think that's a great idea." Within an hour, they had pulled on worn gloves and dragged out a few battered tools from the shed. The patch of earth they had chosen wasn't much, just a strip of stubborn grass and dry dirt. But to Harper, it looked like a blank canvas. Noah and Liam attacked the soil with the fierce determination only 8-year-old boys could muster, wielding shovels like miniature warriors. Sam worked alongside them, his strong, deliberate movements clearing rocks and breaking clumps. Harper knelt beside the boys, teaching them how to loosen the dirt gently, how to feel for moisture, how to tuck seeds into shallow beds like planting tiny promises. "What are we going to grow?" Noah asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Harper thought for a moment. "Wildflowers." The boys blinked at her. "They're tough," she explained. "They can grow in the hardest ground. They don't need fancy care. Just a little sun, a little rain, and they bloom wherever they are." Sam straightened up, watching her. There was something in her voice, something wistful, yet full of quiet determination, that struck him. "Like us, huh?" Liam said proudly. Harper laughed. "Exactly like you." That afternoon, they made a trip into town. Sam had a small stash of savings tucked away for emergencies. He considered this an emergency of the best kind. They picked up packets of seeds, bluebells, daisies, sunflowers, Indian paintbrush, a riot of colors that promised beauty in the months to come. The cashier, an older woman with kind eyes, raised an eyebrow at their cart. "Starting a farm," she teased. "Starting hope," Harper said before Sam could answer. The woman chuckled and gave them an extra packet of lupine seeds for free. Back at the house, they spent the rest of the day planting, laughing, and getting covered in dirt. Sam couldn't remember the last time he had seen the boys so animated, their cheeks flushed with excitement rather than frustration. As the sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows across the yard, Harper sat back on her heels and surveyed their work. The garden was nothing more than a patch of freshly turned earth, dotted with little stakes marking where seeds had been sown. But to Harper, and she suspected to Sam and the boys, it looked like the beginning of something extraordinary. They ate dinner outside that night, plates balanced on their knees, watching the sky turn from peach to deep indigo. Harper played a soft tune on her guitar, the notes weaving through the warm summer air like whispers of a better tomorrow. After the boys went inside to wash up, Sam lingered on the porch. Harper tuned the last string of her guitar, then set it down carefully. "Thanks," Sam said, his voice low. "For what?" Harper asked. "For this," he said simply, gesturing to the patch of earth, the laughter lingering in the walls, the faint music still humming in the air. Harper smiled, a slow, tentative smile that hinted at the many storms she had weathered to reach this quiet shore. "You're welcome," she said. "Thank you for letting me stay." Sam shifted, uncomfortable with gratitude, but Harper's words warmed him nonetheless. "You ever think about putting down roots?" he asked suddenly. Harper looked up at the sky, at the vast sweep of stars beginning to blink into existence. "All the time," she said softly. "Just never found the right ground." Their eyes met across the porch, two souls battered by different storms, but longing perhaps for the same safe harbor. Neither spoke for a long time, but the silence between them felt full, not empty. Later, when Harper lay on the couch, the night sounds lulling her towards sleep, she thought about wildflowers, about their stubbornness, their beauty, their refusal to be tamed, about how they could find a way to bloom even in the harshest places. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, allowed herself to believe she might bloom too. The evening air was thick with the scent of rain and fresh-turned earth. The first delicate sprouts of green were beginning to peek through the soil where the wildflower seeds had been planted. And Harper found herself smiling more easily these days. There was a rhythm to life here, simple, steady, healing, that soothed something raw inside her. After dinner, while Sam tucked Noah and Liam into bed, Harper lingered on the porch, cradling her guitar in her lap. She strummed absent-mindedly, letting the soft notes float into the gathering twilight. The boys' laughter faded into whispers, then silence as they drifted to sleep. The screen door creaked open, and Sam stepped out, a quiet presence beside her. "You always play when you're thinking," he said, settling into the chair next to hers. Harper smiled faintly. Old habit. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze and the occasional hoot of an owl from the woods beyond. Finally, Sam spoke, his voice low and cautious. "You ever miss it?" Harper didn't have to ask what he meant. The life she had left behind, whatever that was. She ran her fingers lightly over the guitar strings, letting the sound speak the words she wasn't sure she could say. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but mostly, no." Sam nodded, sensing there was more. He didn't push. Harper appreciated that about him. The way he gave her space to breathe, to choose her moments. She set the guitar aside and pulled her knees up to her chest, hugging them loosely. Her gaze was distant, lost somewhere beyond the darkened fields. "I grew up thinking money could fix anything," she said softly. "That if you had enough of it, you'd never be lonely, never be scared, never feel invisible." Sam stayed silent, listening. "My family thought they had more money than sense," Harper continued, bitterness threading her voice. "But they didn't have love. They had expectations, control, appearances to maintain." She paused, the memories clawing at her throat. "When I was 18, they tried to marry me off to some oil executive twice my age. Said it was a good match. I ran the night before the wedding, took this guitar and what little cash I had and just left." Sam's hands tightened slightly on the arms of his chair, but he said nothing. "I've been drifting ever since," Harper said, "working odd jobs, playing music in little bars, on street corners, never staying anywhere too long, never letting anyone get too close." She laughed, a small, broken sound. "Guess I got good at running." Sam turned toward her, his face shadowed but his voice steady. "Maybe you were just looking for the right place to land." Harper blinked, the simple kindness of the words hitting harder than she expected. "You think this could be it?" she asked, almost a whisper. Sam shrugged, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Can't say for sure, but the boys adore you. The garden's growing. And for the first time in a long time, this house feels like more than just a roof over our heads." Harper swallowed hard against the sudden lump in her throat. "I'm scared," she admitted, the words slipping out before she could catch them. "I'm scared if I stay, I'll mess it up, that I'll let you down." Sam leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Harper," he said quietly, "you being here, it's not a mistake. It's a gift. For all of us." The sincerity in his voice, the unwavering steadiness of it, cracked something open inside her. Harper blinked rapidly, but a tear escaped anyway, tracing a hot line down her cheek. She turned her face away, embarrassed, but Sam reached out, slow, gentle, and tipped her chin back toward him. "It's okay to stop running," he said. Harper closed her eyes, letting his words settle deep into the aching spaces of her heart. For a long moment, they just sat there, the night folding around them like a soft blanket. The stars overhead seemed closer somehow, brighter, as if the universe itself was leaning in to listen. Eventually, Harper picked up her guitar again. She played a different song this time, one she hadn't touched in years. It was a song her mother used to sing when Harper was very small, before the world taught her to measure love in bank accounts and social status. The melody was simple, tender, a lullaby for lost things found again. Sam closed his eyes and let the music wash over him, feeling for the first time in too long, like the ghosts of the past didn't have to haunt them forever. They could be laid to rest, gently, lovingly, beneath the soil of new beginnings, where wildflowers could grow. The morning after Harper had bared the scars of her past, something subtle but undeniable shifted between her and Sam. The air felt lighter, the silence between them no longer thick with unspoken fears, but stretched warm and safe, like a well-worn quilt. Harper woke to the scent of fresh coffee and the clatter of boys getting ready for the day. She lingered in the doorway of the kitchen, watching Sam expertly flip the pancakes while Noah and Liam chattered at the table, their mouths full of syrupy bites. When Sam noticed her, he smiled, a small, almost shy thing, and gestured toward the coffee pot. "Help yourself," he said. Harper poured a cup, feeling a strange tightness in her chest. This was the life she had longed for without ever daring to believe she deserved. Ordinary, chaotic, beautiful in its simplicity. After breakfast, the boys tugged on her sleeves, begging her to come outside. "Dad said we can fix the old barn," Liam announced proudly, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Sam chuckled. "Fix might be a generous word, more like keep it from falling over." Harper laughed, a genuine sound that made Sam's heart lift in a way he hadn't expected. The barn stood at the edge of the property, weather-beaten and sagging. Its red paint faded to a soft, dusty rose. Ivy clung to the sides and several boards hung loose from the frame. But beneath the wear there was still strength. Beams that had borne storms and seasons and still stood. It reminded Harper a little too much of herself. "We'll need to clean it out first," Sam said, handing her a pair of gloves. They spent the morning hauling out old equipment, rusted tools, and stacks of rotting hay. The boys turned the work into a game, racing each other to see who could carry the biggest load without dropping it. Harper worked alongside them, her muscles protesting but her spirits soaring. Every nail hammered, every plank replaced, felt like stitching together something broken. Not just the barn, but the pieces of herself she had thought lost forever. Around midday, Sam called a break. They sat under the shade of a large oak tree, passing around sandwiches and lemonade. Noah leaned against Harper's side, his small head resting comfortably on her shoulder. Liam sprawled on the grass, kicking his feet in the air. "Hey, Harper," Liam said, looking up at the sky. "Yeah, buddy? Are you going to stay forever?" The question hung in the air, fragile and earnest. Harper's throat tightened. She looked over at Sam, whose eyes met hers steadily, giving nothing away and yet everything. She smiled, brushing a lock of hair from Noah's forehead. "I think I'd like to stay as long as you'll have me." The boys cheered and Sam's shoulders relaxed, as if he'd been holding his breath without even realizing it. After lunch, they returned to the barn. Harper climbed a ladder to replace a few shingles, while Sam steadied it below. The boys carried fresh boards, nails, and tools, taking their responsibilities seriously. The sun dipped low as they worked, painting the world in hues of amber and gold. Harper paused atop the ladder, surveying the scene. Sam laughing as Liam proudly hammered a nail askew, Noah pretending a board was a sword, the way Sam ruffled his hair and corrected his grip. This messy, noisy, imperfect life was more beautiful than anything money could ever buy. By nightfall, the barn wasn't perfect, but it was standing stronger. Gaps had been patched, doors rehung, and the roof no longer sagged in defeat. It wasn't new, but it was whole. So, too, was Harper, in a way she hadn't felt for years. As they packed away the tools, Sam brushed dust from his hands and glanced at her. "Thinking we could turn this into a playhouse for the boys," he said. "Maybe some bunk beds. A place for them to get into trouble." Harper laughed, wiping sweat from her brow. "They don't seem to need much help finding trouble." Sam grinned, but then his face grew more serious. "Maybe a space for you, too," he said, voice low. "If you want." Harper looked at him, really looked, and felt her heart stutter at the openness in his eyes. No demands, no expectations, just an offer, a home. She nodded, too choked up to speak. Later that night, after showers and dinner, Harper wandered back out to the barn alone. The stars wheeled overhead, brilliant and unashamed. She walked slowly through the dusty floorboards, running her hand along the freshly hammered wood. In the center of the barn, she sat down, cradling her guitar in her lap. She played softly, a melody born not from sorrow, but from hope. Her voice rose in the night, tentative but sure. "In broken boards and battered beams, in seeds we plant, in fragile dreams, there blooms a life we never knew. A home we build, a heart renewed." She sang to the barn, to the land, to Sam, to the boys, to herself. Outside, leaning against the doorway unnoticed, Sam listened, his heart full and aching all at once. For the first time in years, he dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, he hadn't lost everything. Maybe he had simply been waiting for the right wildflower to find him. The days that followed were a soft kind of golden. The seeds they had planted sprouted into brave little shoots, stretching stubbornly toward the sky. The boys raced home from school to water them. Harper sang while she worked in the yard, and Sam found himself smiling more easily, laughing more often. It almost felt like the world had forgotten how to be cruel. But life, Sam knew, had a way of reminding you, just when you least expected it. The storm rolled in without warning late one afternoon, thick black clouds boiling up over the mountains like an army on the march. Sam stood on the porch, watching the sky darken with an old familiar tightness in his gut. He turned to Harper, who was gathering tools in the yard with the boys. "Get them inside," he called, his voice sharper than he intended. Harper didn't ask questions. She herded Noah and Liam toward the house, urgency quickening her steps. Sam bolted the windows, pulled tarps over the tool shed, did everything he could. But the wind was already howling by the time he closed the door behind him. Inside, the little house groaned under the onslaught. Rain pounded the roof like 1,000 fists. Thunder cracked so loud it rattled the dishes in the cabinets. The boys huddled on the couch, eyes wide, trying to be brave. Harper sat between them, arms wrapped protectively around their small bodies. Sam paced, helpless. There was nothing more he could do now but wait and pray the old place would hold. A sharp crack echoed through the night, a sound that chilled Sam to the bone. He raced to the window and saw it. The barn. Their barn. The roof was lifting, the battered old structure shuddering against the ferocity of the wind. "No," Sam whispered. He grabbed his coat and was halfway to the door when Harper caught his arm. "You can't go out there," she cried over the roar of the storm. "I have to try," Sam shouted back. Their eyes locked, 1,000 things passing between them in a heartbeat. Fear, desperation, love unspoken. Harper let him go. Sam plunged into the storm, the rain slashing against him like knives. He stumbled toward the barn, each step a battle. Mud sucked at his boots. The wind tried to knock him flat. When he reached the barn, he saw the damage. A section of the roof torn clean away. The new boards they had nailed together ripped loose like kindling. Water poured in through the gaps, soaking everything inside. Sam fought to secure what he could, throwing tarps over supplies, hammering down what boards he could reach. His hands were raw, his muscles screaming, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. This barn wasn't just wood and nails. It was the first thing they'd built together. It was hope made tangible. Finally, exhausted and soaked to the bone, Sam stumbled back toward the house. Harper threw open the door, pulling him inside. She toweled his hair roughly, her hands trembling. "You idiot," she muttered, voice thick with tears. Sam caught her wrist gently. "It's just a barn," he said hoarsely. Harper looked up at him, her face pale but fierce. "It's not just a barn. It's our home. Their home." Sam swallowed hard against the lump in his throat. The storm raged on through the night, a relentless beast. But inside the little house they huddled together, Sam, Harper, Noah, and Liam, a fortress of warmth and love against the darkness. When the first pale fingers of dawn reached over the horizon, the storm had spent itself. The world outside was battered and broken, trees torn from their roots, the fields flattened. The barn stood, wounded but standing. Sam and Harper emerged into the misty morning, surveying the wreckage. The wildflower garden had been battered badly. Many of the delicate shoots lay broken, flattened into the mud. Sam felt a pang deep in his chest, mourning them. But then Harper gasped and pointed. There, stubborn and bright, a handful of flowers still stood, bent but unbroken, their colors defiant against the gray wreckage, bluebells, daisies. A lone sunflower, its face turned bravely to the rising sun. Harper knelt beside them, brushing mud from their petals with infinite gentleness. "They made it," she whispered. Sam crouched beside her. His hand found hers in the dirt, strong and steady. "So did we," he said quietly. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing in the cool, rain-sweet air, feeling the broken earth beneath them, the stubborn pulse of life refusing to give up. Later, back inside, Sam lit a fire in the stove. Harper cooked pancakes while the boys tried to patch together a kite from storm debris, their laughter filling the small house once more. Life was messy, Sam thought. Life was fragile. But life, real life, was also tougher than you thought. Like wildflowers, it didn't need perfect soil or perfect weather. It just needed a chance to grow. The days after the storm felt different, as if something heavy had been washed away with the rain. The air smelled cleaner. The sky seemed a little bluer. And inside the Taylor house, laughter came a little easier, like the earth itself had taken a deep breath and decided to begin again. Harper spent the morning helping Noah and Liam rebuild a battered tree swing in the old oak behind the house. Sam watched from the porch, his hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug, feeling a deep, quiet joy settle into his bones. He didn't remember the last time the boys had looked so alive. Maybe he had been wrong all those years, thinking it was enough to simply keep going, to survive. Maybe life was meant to be built, not just endured. Harper called out something that made the boys laugh so hard they toppled into a pile of giggles at the base of the tree. She caught Sam's gaze and grinned, a wide, easy grin that punched the breath right out of his chest. He hadn't planned on her. He hadn't planned on hope either. Later that afternoon, Harper found him fixing the latch on the barn door. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, watching him work. "You're good with your hands," she said lightly. Sam shot her a look. "Don't go giving me a big head." Harper laughed, but there was a nervous energy in the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "You need something?" Sam asked, setting down his hammer. Harper hesitated, then stepped forward, close enough that Sam could see the freckles dusting her nose. "I've been thinking," she said, "about staying." Sam's heart thudded painfully hard against his ribs. "You already are," he said, a little more roughly than he intended. Harper smiled, but it was a sad, sweet smile that twisted in his gut. "Really staying," she clarified. "Making a life here. With you. With the boys. If you want that." Sam stared at her, struggling to find words big enough for what welled up inside him. "I want that," he said finally, his voice steady. Harper let out a breath like she had been holding it for years. Sam reached out, hesitated for a heartbeat, then brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. It wasn't a kiss. Not yet. But it was a promise. That evening they set up an old fire pit in the backyard. Harper and the boys roasted marshmallows, their faces glowing in the flickering light. Sam watched them, feeling something sacred settle into his bones. Family. Not the kind written in blood, maybe, but the kind forged in something even stronger. Choice, hope, love. After the boys went to bed, sticky with marshmallows, exhausted but happy, Sam and Harper stayed by the fire. The flames danced between them, painting her face in warm gold and soft shadows. "I used to think I didn't deserve this," Harper said, her voice low, almost lost in the crackle of the fire. "A home, a family, peace." Sam stared into the flames for a long moment before answering. "We all carry ghosts," he said finally, "some heavier than others. But none of that changes the fact that you deserve to be happy." Harper blinked fast, but a tear slipped free anyway. Sam reached across the space between them, took her hand and held it, firm, steady, unshakable. "You're not running anymore, Harper," he said. "You're home." She squeezed his hand tightly, anchoring herself to the moment. The stars unfolded above them, endless and breathtaking. In the soft darkness, with the crackle of the fire and the scent of wildflowers drifting on the night air, Sam leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, a kiss that was gentle at first, tentative like two souls testing the strength of a bridge they had built, plank by plank. But as the kiss deepened, so did their certainty. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a mistake. It was the beginning of everything they hadn't dared to dream. When they finally pulled apart, Harper laughed, a wet, broken laugh full of wonder. Sam rested his forehead against hers, breathing her in. "You're stuck with us now," he whispered. Harper smiled through her tears. "Good," she said, "because I'm not going anywhere." They sat there until the fire burned low, wrapped in a silence that wasn't empty but overflowing, with gratitude, with healing, with the simple, staggering beauty of finding home in the last place you expected. Summer edged toward its final days, painting the fields in shades of gold and rust. The wildflowers Harper and the boys had planted thrived, stubborn and brilliant against the fading green. Life at the Taylor house settled into a rhythm so natural that Harper often forgot there had been a time when she hadn't belonged here. Mornings were filled with the sound of boys thundering down the hallway, afternoons with fixing things that didn't really need fixing just to stay busy. Evenings ended with Harper playing her guitar while Sam worked beside her on the porch, carving small wooden figures for the boys. It was simple. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Because somewhere deep inside, Harper couldn't shake the gnawing fear that it was too good to last. One afternoon, while Sam was out repairing a fence for a neighbor, a sleek black SUV pulled into the driveway. Harper wiped her hands on her jeans, heart pounding in sudden, irrational panic. The man who stepped out wore a tailored suit and expensive sunglasses. His shoes alone probably cost more than everything Sam owned. He looked around with thinly veiled disdain before approaching the porch. "Harper Whitmore?" he asked crisply. The sound of her full name, a name she hadn't heard in months, sliced through her like a blade. Harper nodded slowly, every muscle in her body taut with dread. "I represent the Whitmore estate," the man said, handing her a thick envelope. "Your father is ill, gravely so. He's requesting your presence immediately." Harper stared at the envelope like it might catch fire in her hands. "I'm not—" she began, then stopped, swallowing the hot surge of emotions clawing up her throat. The man shifted impatiently. "Miss Whitmore, your absence has caused complications. Your return could simplify matters. For everyone." With that, he tipped his head in a curt nod and turned back to the SUV, leaving Harper standing on the porch, shaking. The boys came running from the backyard, oblivious to the storm that had just broken open inside her. "Who was that?" Liam asked, breathless. "No one," Harper lied, her voice cracking. But it wasn't no one. It was the past, reaching its icy fingers across the miles to drag her back. That night, Harper barely slept. She lay on the old couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft rise and fall of the boys' breathing down the hall, listening for the steady creak of Sam's chair on the porch, the comforting sound of a man who had built his life from hope and hard work. She thought about Sam's hands, rough, capable, gentle. She thought about Noah and Liam's laughter, their trust, their dreams. She thought about the garden, the barn, the swing, the fireflies dancing over the fields at night. And she thought about the father, who had never once come looking for her when she needed him most, but who now, at the edge of his life, wanted her to come back. At dawn, Harper packed a small bag. She wrote 3 letters, one for each of them, and left them on the kitchen table. She didn't wake them. She couldn't bear to see their faces. Then she slipped out into the gray light of morning, her heart breaking with every step she took away from the only home she had ever truly known. Sam found the letters first. He'd woken early, as always, expecting to find Harper in the kitchen, humming under her breath while she made coffee. Instead, he found silence and the neatly folded notes. His hands trembled as he picked up the one addressed to him. "Sam, I don't know how to say goodbye, so I won't try. You gave me a home when I didn't believe I deserved one. You and the boys showed me what love looks like. Messy, loud, beautiful beyond words. I have to face my past now, not because I want to, but because it's the only way I'll ever be free of it. Please know that leaving has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the girl I used to be, the one who still needs to close some doors before she can open new ones. I love you. I love all 3 of you more than I ever thought possible. If I find my way back, I hope you'll still be here. Harper." Sam sat down hard in the nearest chair, the letter clutched in his fist, the world tilting around him. Noah and Liam found their letters next. Simple, sweet promises that she would always love them, that they were brave and kind and would do great things. The boys didn't understand at first. "Where did she go?" Noah asked, voice trembling. "Why would she leave if she loves us?" Liam whispered. Sam didn't have any answers, only a hollow ache where hope had lived. The house felt empty that day. The garden seemed duller. The boys played half-heartedly, glancing at the road every few minutes as if willing Harper to reappear. Sam spent the evening on the porch, staring out at the horizon until the stars blurred with tears he refused to shed. Maybe he had been a fool to believe in second chances. Maybe some wildflowers were never meant to stay rooted. Maybe love wasn't enough after all. But even as bitterness threatened, he clung to Harper's words. "If I find my way back, I hope you'll still be here." He would be, because love, real love, waited, even when it hurt, especially then. The days without Harper stretched long and hollow. Sam did his best to keep the boys busy, repairing the swing again after Liam broke it mid-flight, teaching Noah how to sand a piece of wood smooth without splinters. But the house itself seemed to sag under the weight of her absence. Everywhere he turned, there were traces of her. The faded coffee mug she always used, the worn guitar leaning silently against the wall, the faint smell of lavender on the spare pillow. Sam held himself together for the boys, plastering on a smile, finding things to fix, chores to finish. But late at night, when the world was silent and the stars stretched endlessly overhead, the ache inside him felt too big to carry. He missed her laugh, low and a little wild. He missed the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. He missed the feeling of being seen, really seen, and still chosen. A week after Harper left, Sam wandered out to the barn. The repairs they had made still held strong, but there was something comforting about being in that space, a place they had built together, a place that still whispered of hope. He sat down heavily at the old workbench, running his hands across the scarred surface. His fingers found a loose board near the back edge. Curious, he pried it up and froze. Inside the hollow space, wrapped in a faded bandana, was a small stack of papers and a worn leather notebook. Sam unfolded the bandana with reverence. On top was a deed, the official kind, stamped and notarized, transferring ownership of the house, the barn, and the surrounding land to him. His breath caught in his chest. Beneath the deed was a bank statement, a modest trust set aside in Noah and Liam's names. Enough to send them to college someday. Enough to give them choices Sam had never dared to hope for. And at the bottom of the stack was a letter. This one wasn't hurried like the others she had left. It was written carefully, deliberately, each word placed like a stone across a river. "Sam, I don't know if you'll ever find this. Maybe it's better if you don't, because then you'll never feel like you owe me anything. But if you're reading this, know that everything I have, everything that matters, I leave with you and the boys. I don't want my past, or my name, or the money I never asked for, to define me. I want what we built here to be my real legacy. You gave me a home when all I had were empty pockets and broken dreams. You gave me laughter, trust, a place to breathe. You gave me a family. I may have been born a Whitmore, but thanks to you, I'll die something better. A Taylor in every way that matters. I love you, Sam. I love the boys. Please never stop planting wildflowers. Love, Harper." Sam bowed his head over the letter, his shoulders shaking. He didn't fight the tears this time. They streamed down his face, soaking the paper he clutched like a lifeline. Noah and Liam found him there a few minutes later. Silently, instinctively, they crawled into his arms, anchoring him with their small, stubborn strength. When Sam could finally speak, he read the letter aloud to them, his voice rough but steady. When he finished, Noah sniffled loudly. "Does that mean she's coming back?" he asked. Sam hesitated, the truth bitter on his tongue. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But no matter what, we'll keep building what she started. We'll keep planting wildflowers." The boys nodded fiercely. their small faces fierce with determination. That evening, they dug into the old coffee can where they kept leftover seeds. Together, they sowed a new patch beside the house, not because the garden needed it, but because they did. Each seed was a prayer, each handful of dirt a promise. When they finished, Sam sat on the porch with the boys snuggled against him. He looked out over the fields, toward the horizon where the last light of day still burned, stubborn and gold. Maybe Harper was out there somewhere, facing her demons, finding her way. Maybe she would come back. Maybe she wouldn't. But Sam knew one thing with bone-deep certainty. Love, real love, didn't vanish when someone walked away. It stayed. It grew. It waited. And sometimes it bloomed against all odds, wild and fierce and achingly beautiful, just like the wildflowers. The autumn winds came early that year, crisp and smelling faintly of wood smoke. The fields around the Taylor house turned from green to gold, and the wildflowers, stubborn as ever, bloomed one last time before bowing to the season's change. Life settled into a quieter rhythm. Different, yes. Lonelier sometimes, but not broken. Sam poured his heart into the land, the barn, the boys. Each nail he hammered, each fence he repaired, felt like stitching together something that might have fallen apart otherwise. The boys, too, grew stronger, not because they had forgotten Harper, but because they carried her with them. Her guitar leaned in the corner of the living room now, not gathering dust, but played often. Her garden bloomed defiantly against the chill winds. Her letters, tucked safely away, were reread on nights when the ache felt too sharp. One afternoon, Sam came home to find Noah and Liam dragging scrap wood across the yard. "What are you two up to now?" he called, smiling despite himself. "We're building a fort," Liam shouted. "For Harper," Noah added. Sam's smile faltered, but only for a moment. He crossed the yard and crouched beside them. "A fort for Harper, huh?" he said, ruffling Liam's hair. They nodded earnestly, eyes bright. "So she'll know we're still here when she comes back," Noah said simply. Sam swallowed hard. "All right," he said. "Let's build her the best fort in Montana." They worked until sunset, hammering, sawing, laughing. Sam taught them how to brace corners properly, how to drive nails straight. It wasn't the sturdiest structure in the world, a little crooked, a little rough, but it was theirs. They hung a hand-painted sign over the door. "Harper's Hideout, always welcome." When they finished, Sam sat on the grass with the boys sprawled against him, watching the sky blush pink and gold. "She'd love it," Sam said quietly. "She'll come back," Noah whispered, almost as if he were making a promise to himself as much as to Sam. Sam looked up at the first star blinking into existence overhead and closed his eyes. Please, God, bring her home safe. As the days shortened, the Taylor house brimmed with small acts of hope. Every week they planted something new, bulbs for spring, seeds that would sleep under the snow until warmth returned. Every weekend they fixed something, the barn, the swing, the treehouse. Every night they left the porch light burning, a beacon against the darkness. It wasn't just about Harper anymore. It was about choosing to believe in second chances, in the unseen seeds taking root beneath frozen ground, in the wild, foolish hope that love could find its way home, even after being lost. One evening, just as the first snow threatened on the horizon, Sam stood on the porch, mug of coffee warming his hands, staring down the long dirt road. The boys were inside, fighting over a board game, their voices rising and falling in the familiar cadence of brotherly warfare. The world was still and vast and aching. And then, out of the twilight, he saw it. A figure walking slowly down the road. At first he thought he was imagining it, hope playing cruel tricks. But as the figure drew closer, the shape became real. A woman, thin beneath a heavy coat, a duffel slung over one shoulder, her steps hesitant but determined. Sam's heart slammed against his ribs. He set down his mug carefully, as if any sudden movement might shatter the moment. The boys must have heard the change in the air because they came barreling onto the porch. "Who's that?" Noah asked, peering into the dusk. Sam didn't answer. He stepped off the porch, walking down the steps across the yard toward the figure coming home. Closer now, he could see her face, thinner, paler, but achingly familiar. Her hair was pulled back under a woolen hat, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and her eyes, God, her eyes, held the same mix of hope and terror he remembered from the day they first met on that broken road. Harper stopped a few feet away, breathing hard, her duffel slipping from her shoulder to the ground. Sam stared at her, every fiber of him screaming to pull her into his arms, but he waited. He needed her to speak first, needed to know this was real. Harper's voice broke the silence, ragged but sure. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I had to go. I had to face them, face myself." Sam said nothing, just stood there, willing her to go on. "I thought—" She shook her head. "I thought I could close that chapter and move on. But every step I took away from here, from you, from the boys, it felt like leaving my heart behind." Tears slid down her cheeks, and she didn't bother to wipe them away. "I'm not running anymore," she said fiercely. "If you'll still have me, I want to come home." For a long heartbeat, Sam couldn't move, and then he did. He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, wrapping her in his arms so tightly he felt her heart beating against his own. Behind them he heard the boys cheering, wild, unrestrained joy echoing across the fields. Sam buried his face in Harper's hair, breathing her in, feeling her real and solid, and home in his arms. "Welcome home," he whispered into the fading light. Winter passed slowly, wrapping the land in a soft hush of snow and silence. But inside the Taylor house, life bloomed again. Harper settled back into their lives as if she had never left, but deeper now, more certain. There were no more walls between them, no more shadows clinging to the edges of their days. Only light, only laughter. In the evenings they cooked together, filling the house with the rich scents of stew and baked bread. On weekends they repaired the barn again, this time not because it needed it, but because they loved working side by side, hands busy, hearts full. The boys built a second fort next to the first one. Harper's Hideout 2.0, they declared proudly, and insisted she have her own flag made out of an old pillowcase. Sam carved a new swing for the oak tree, stronger than the last. Harper sewed curtains for the boys' room out of mismatched fabric squares. They planted new seeds under the melting snow, trusting, always trusting, that life would find a way. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes Harper still woke from nightmares she didn't explain, and Sam simply held her until the shaking stopped. Sometimes Sam worried he wasn't enough, that the simple life he offered could never measure up to the one Harper had left behind. But those fears were quieter now, like distant storms that had lost their teeth. What mattered was what they chose day after day. And they chose each other. One bright morning in late spring, Harper stood at the edge of the wildflower garden, a watering can in hand, staring in awe. The flowers had exploded into color, bluebells nodding under the weight of dew, sunflowers standing proud and tall, daisies tossing their bright faces to the sky. The garden had survived the storm, the winter, the absence. It had survived, and it had flourished. Sam came up behind her, slipping an arm around her waist. "Looks good," he said, voice low against her ear. Harper leaned back into him. "It's beautiful." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "You made it that way." She shook her head, smiling. "We did. All of us." Noah and Liam tore across the yard, wooden swords in hand, their laughter rising like music. Sam laughed too, and for a moment Harper let herself simply stand there, soaking it all in. The home she had found not in marble halls or grand estates, but in creaky floorboards, muddy boots, laughter, and love. This was what mattered. Not the name she was born with, not the fortune she had walked away from, not the past she had outrun. Here, among the wildflowers, she had built a new life, a real one, a life rooted in soil and song and second chances. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the world softened into gold, Sam gathered Harper and the boys out by the oak tree. He cleared his throat awkwardly, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Harper raised an eyebrow, amused. "You look like you're about to deliver bad news." Sam chuckled, then grew serious. "I was thinking," he said slowly, "maybe it's time we made this official." Harper blinked. "Official?" Sam pulled something from his pocket, a simple silver ring, scuffed and imperfect, but shining all the same. Harper's hands flew to her mouth, her heart stuttering. The boys whooped and hollered, jumping up and down around them. Sam held out the ring, his eyes steady and sure. "Harper Whitmore, or Taylor, or whatever name you want. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision, but her voice was clear and unwavering. "Yes," she whispered. Sam slipped the ring onto her finger, and the boys tackled them both in a tangle of arms and laughter. Later, after the boys had been coaxed inside and the stars unfurled across the velvet sky, Sam and Harper sat together on the porch swing, her head resting on his shoulder. No words were needed. The breeze stirred the scent of the wildflowers, carrying it across the fields, across the distance they had both traveled to find this moment. Love had found them, battered, scarred, stubborn, and planted them side by side. And they had bloomed, not perfectly, not without storms, but real. And sometimes, Harper thought, real was more beautiful than perfect could ever dream of being. She tilted her face up to the stars and whispered a silent prayer of thanks for the broken roads that had led her here, for the second chances she hadn't dared to hope for the simple, staggering miracle of belonging. Where the wildflowers grow, where love once planted never truly dies, only grows stronger, only grows wilder, only grows home. If this story found a place in your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you joining us from? Feel free to share in the comments. We treasure every connection, every story, every kind soul who finds their way here. And if this journey spoke to you, we warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep sharing moments of hope, kindness, and gentle reminders that love can always find its way home. Thank you truly for spending a part of your day with us. Until we meet again, stay well, stay kind, and never stop believing in the quiet miracles growing all around you.